Is this truly the America we know? An America where the cries of thousands of Texans, displaced and devastated by relentless floods, seem to fall on deaf ears? Homes, livelihoods, and even lives swept away by a merciless current. For days, the floodwaters have raged, leaving a trail of destruction and a looming crisis of long-term homelessness. Yet, in the face of such widespread suffering, visible government assistance remains conspicuously absent. It has been 4 to 5 agonizing days since the flood situation escalated, and still, a comprehensive, compassionate response from our government is nowhere to be seen. It begs the question, is the U.S. government more preoccupied with bankrolling foreign conflicts than with safeguarding the well-being of its own citizens during their darkest hour? When empathy dries up, a tale of two budgets. Imagine a war-torn nation abroad. Our government, swift and decisive, would likely have extended a helping hand within a day, branding it humanitarian aid. We witnessed this rapid deployment of support during the recent Iran-Israel tensions, and for years, our unwavering commitment to Ukraine and its conflict with Russia has seen billions flow. But when the crisis hits home, when American families lose everything, the government's much-vaunted efficiency evaporates. The unfolding tragedy in Texas stands as a stark, unforgiving testament to this bewildering disparity. The people of Texas are metaphorically adrift, seemingly unseen and unheard. Meanwhile, our national coffers bleed billions in aid to other nations. Over $300 billion, for instance, has reportedly been disbursed to Ukraine. And then there's the annual allocation of $30 to $40 billion to Israel, specifically for military aid. Let's be clear, this is an attack on our allies. The precise figures of foreign aid, while substantial, are not the core of this grievance. The fundamental question remains, why does such an immediate, almost instinctive generosity for foreign wars vanish when a domestic crisis of epic proportions unfolds within our own borders? A familiar and frightening pattern of neglect. This isn't an isolated incident. The American people have, sadly, become accustomed to such disheartening displays of governmental apathy in the face of domestic disasters. The recent, devastating wildfires in Los Angeles serve as another grim reminder. While our government channeled billions into military operations overseas, countless residents in Los Angeles saw their entire lives incinerated, homes reduced to ash, possessions vanished, leaving behind only the clothes on their backs and profound sense of abandonment. It's a bitter pill to swallow, knowing that hard-earned taxpayer money is fueling conflicts abroad while urgent, desperate needs at home are left unmet. When disaster strikes and aid becomes a lifeline, the government often appears woefully unprepared, raising serious, uncomfortable questions about the allocation of taxpayer funds and the very core of its priorities. As infernos raged through Los Angeles, they left an indelible scar of devastation, obliterating entire communities. Over 28,000 structures were mercilessly consumed by the flames, and nearly 58,000 acres of land were scorched beyond recognition. Families, their lives uprooted in an instant, fled in sheer desperation, clutching whatever meager belongings they could salvage as the fires devoured their homes, their cherished memories, and for some, their very lives. A staggering 270,000 people were displaced, forced into overcrowded shelters, or left to struggle for survival in makeshift housing, their futures uncertain. The human cost was immense, with 48 lives tragically lost. Yet, amidst this heartbreaking catastrophe, the government's response was shockingly, woefully inadequate, leaving countless survivors feeling utterly abandoned when they needed help the most. Funding fiascos, the empty coffers excuse. The federal government, in what many perceive as a dismissive gesture, cited a lack of funding as the reason for its inability to provide robust disaster relief to the wildfire survivors. This excuse, however, rings hollow when juxtaposed with the immense sums readily dispatched across oceans. It throws into sharp relief the long-standing, often contentious debate surrounding the allocation of tax dollars. Why, indeed, are we funneling billions abroad when our own citizens are in such dire, desperate need? This isn't merely about money. It's about a fundamental misalignment of priorities. The government attempts to justify its foreign aid spending as crucial for global stability and the protection of allies. But what about stability at home? What about protecting American families who have lost everything? This isn't just a plea for change. It is an undeniable demand for accountability. Taxpayer money at its core should first and foremost serve those who contribute it, the American people. The human toll, beyond the headlines, beyond the statistics and the political rhetoric. There are real people, real stories of unimaginable loss. In Texas, families huddle in makeshift shelters, their homes submerged, their futures uncertain. Children, traumatized by the roaring waters, cling to their parents, their innocence stolen by the flood's fury. Elderly residents, their lifelong savings wash away, stare blankly at the rising tide, wondering where they will go, how they will rebuild. The emotional and psychological toll of such disasters is immeasurable. The constant anxiety, the fear of the unknown, the despair of losing everything. These are burdens that linger long after the waters recede. And without adequate government support, these burdens become crushing. Mental health crises, often overlooked in the immediate aftermath of disaster, are on the rise. Families are fractured, communities shattered. The ripple effect of such neglect extends far beyond immediate damage, impacting generations. Consider the recent devastating floods that swept through the Midwest, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. In states like Iowa and Nebraska, agricultural communities, the lifeblood of the nation's food supply, were decimated. Farmland, once fertile and productive, became a vast, muddy lake. Farmers, already grappling with economic uncertainties, saw their crops, their livestock, and their livelihoods disappear overnight. The estimated agricultural losses alone ran into billions of dollars. Yet, the federal response, while present, was criticized by many as slow and insufficient, failing to fully address the scale of the devastation or the unique challenges faced by rural communities. This recurrent pattern of delayed or inadequate domestic aid, contrasted with seemingly limitless foreign spending, fuels a growing sense of frustration and betrayal among American citizens. A call for introspection. Where do our values lie? The narrative unfolding in Texas and previously in Los Angeles forces a critical examination of our national values. What do we truly prioritize as a nation? Is it global influence at any cost, even if it means neglecting our own? Is it the swift deployment of military aid to distant lands, while our own citizens drown in floodwaters or face the ashes of their homes? This is not to say that foreign aid is without merit. Humanitarian crises abroad certainly warrant our attention and assistance. But there must be a balance, a recognition that charity, as the saying goes, begins at home. The American people, through their taxes, fund the very government that is supposed to protect and serve them. When that protection and service are visibly absent in times of profound domestic crisis, it erodes trust, fosters resentment, and ultimately weakens the fabric of our society. The lack of immediate, robust federal intervention in Texas is particularly concerning given the escalating frequency and intensity of extreme weather events across the United States. Climate change is no longer a distant threat. It is a present reality manifesting in more powerful hurricanes, more destructive wildfires, and more widespread flooding. Scientific data increasingly points to a future where such disasters become a norm, not the exception. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, reported that in 2023 alone, the U.S. experienced 28 separate billion-dollar weather and climate disasters, tying a record set in 2020. The total cost of these events exceeded $92.9 billion. Given this grim forecast, a proactive, well-funded, and efficient disaster relief apparatus is not merely desirable, it is an absolute necessity. The current response, or lack thereof, suggests a dangerous unpreparedness for the challenges that lie ahead. The taxpayer's dilemma. Where does our money go? The allocation of taxpayer dollars has long been a contentious issue, but the current crises in Texas and the recent history of wildfires in California have brought this debate into sharp, undeniable focus. Why are we sending billions abroad when our own citizens are in such desperate need? This isn't just a rhetorical question. It's a fundamental query about priorities, about the very purpose of government. The official justification for foreign aid spending often revolves around concepts of global stability, protecting allies, and safeguarding national interest abroad. But what about stability at home? What about protecting American families who have lost everything? What about ensuring the well-being of the very people who contribute their hard-earned money to the national coffers? Consider this. The U.S. military budget is staggering, consistently ranking as the largest in the world. In fiscal year 2024, it is projected to be approximately $886 billion. While national defense is undeniably critical, the sheer scale of this spending, coupled with the immediate and pressing needs of American citizens facing domestic disasters, raises serious questions. If there's a perceived lack of funding for disaster relief, then where exactly is the money going, and why isn't a portion of those vast resources being readily reallocated to address urgent domestic crises? The argument isn't necessarily to abolish all foreign aid or drastically cut the defense budget, but rather to establish a more balanced, humane approach to resource allocation. When a state like Texas is underwater, when thousands of American families are homeless, the priority should shift, even temporarily, to addressing those immediate life-altering needs. The concept of humanitarian aid should begin at home. It's not just a call for change. It is a profound demand for accountability. Taxpayer money, at its most fundamental level, should first and foremost serve those who contribute it. Their safety, their well-being, and their ability to rebuild after a disaster should be paramount. Beyond the political divide, a unifying plea. This issue transcends partisan politics. The suffering in Texas knows no political affiliation. The need for aid is not a Democratic or Republican plea. It is a human one. It is a plea for basic dignity, for the right to rebuild, for the assurance that in times of crisis, one's own government will stand by them. The current situation demands a bipartisan commitment to reevaluate spending priorities, to streamline disaster relief efforts, and to ensure that the resources of this nation are first and foremost directed towards the well-being and safety of its own people. The sheer scale of economic devastation wrought by these increasingly frequent disasters cannot be overstated. Beyond the immediate costs of emergency response and damage repair, there are long-term economic consequences that ripple through communities and the broader national economy. Businesses are forced to close, leading to job losses and reduced tax revenues. Infrastructure, from roads and bridges to power grids, is destroyed, hindering commerce and daily life. Agricultural losses impact food prices and the livelihoods of farmers. The economic toll on individuals, particularly those without adequate insurance or savings, is immense, often leading to bankruptcies, foreclosures, and a prolonged struggle for recovery. A robust and timely federal response is not just a humanitarian imperative. It is an economic necessity, protecting communities from spiraling into further decline and ensuring a quicker path to recovery and resilience. The current approach of underfunding domestic disaster relief and then citing lack of funds for critical aid is a self-defeating strategy that ultimately costs the nation more in the long run. The road ahead, demanding accountability. The people of Texas are crying for help, and their cries must be heard. This is not a request. It is a demand for accountability. It is a demand for a government that truly serves its people, that prioritizes their safety and well-being above all else. It is a demand for a reevaluation of our national priorities, a shift that places the needs of American citizens at the forefront of every budget allocation, every policy decision. Only then can we truly say that this is our America, an America where no one is left behind, especially in their darkest hour. The time for excuses is over. The time for action, meaningful and immediate action, is now. The victims of Texas, and indeed all Americans, deserve nothing less.